Hello and welcome to Two Wheels Extra.
And this week, a 50s bonanza.
Rock and roll.
On the show this week, a guide to buying and riding a genuine antique bike from the 50s. Our two scooters are both 50s too, CC that is, and very much up to date. The DNA meets the Dragstar on the track for a mini showdown in our scooter slot. And another taste of history with a beautiful Café racer that's a direct descendant of the first two bikes on this week's programme.
But first, these.
50s bikes still being made in 2001. Now, Richard didn't know this, but I've always had a soft spot for vintage bikes, ever since my early days riding a friend's old Triumph Bonneville with the gears situated as normal on the left. However, I was a bit worried when the producer said that the gears were on the right and that there were no brakes, a kickstart that takes 20 kicks and handling that would be hard pushed to beat a Robin Reliant around the country lanes. Well, let me tell you, it's not true.
Certainly not with these two, because old and poorly maintained nails, they're not. These are brand new Enfield Bullets. They bring less of the problems and all of the glamour. Would you like chrome with your chrome, sir? I want some more chrome as well. There's acres of the stuff, and so there should be, because these are faithful copies of bikes that grew up in the 50s. There are actually very few differences between the two that we have here, apart from the engines, the 350 on Fran's and the 500 on mine. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same. They can't promise Japanese standards of build quality and durability, but with a bit of cosseting for nasty British winters, there's no reason why they shouldn't stay shiny.
Basically, you've only got 4 gears and there's no real need to use them at all. Just use the torque. Ba 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 ba. Pretty much nothing to choose between these and an original 1950s, 1955 bike, which is both good and bad. It feels authentic, but then the bad side is it feels authentic, particularly when you need to do things like brake. Plenty of forward planning is required.
The Enfield and I soon made friends, and even the right-footed gear change didn't take me too long to get to grips with. Fair enough, the brakes weren't the hottest things out, but you don't go that fast on an Enfield Bullet. You hardly go at all, really. You just sit there and get hypnotised by the sweet-sounding exhaust and the gurgling coming from the engine below. The riding position is just, well, armchair-like, and the old dials make for easy reading. I would usually prefer a front fairing, but when riding a machine like this, it would just spoil the moment. I really loved this Enfield Bullet and wouldn't think twice if offered to ride one again. As for owning one, I think I'll leave that to the boys. I just wouldn't have that 50s kickstart swing. James Dean would though, wouldn't he?
Keep going forever. It's only got 4 moving parts. As long as you love it and cherish it and give it a bit of fettling every now and again, it should last and last.
Something else that was big in the 50s and subsequently vanished was the sidecar combination. Actually something we're going to look at in more detail in a later programme in our 3-wheel special. But for this show, I went down to the Cotswolds to Watsonian Squire to find out more about the sidecar.
Peter, these are what you're doing now. Selling these very nicely, but the whole sidecar thing is where you started. Are people still buying them at all? Who buys them now?
Yes, people will be buying sidecars and they continue to do so. The main people, the main customers are going to be mainly people with children, so that you can put the child in the sidecar, or the wife, or both, or more than one child. So we make a whole range of different models. Well, you can get 2 adults and 2 children in our biggest sidecar. But that's just one part. I think we have 27 different models we actually make, and we sell those throughout the world. And it enables people to carry on motorcycling, one, when they've got a family, secondly, when they are a bit dubious about some of these big heavy bikes and they want something to keep it up. And in the winter, of course, the weather makes motorcycling, can make it very hazardous, and a third wheel that keeps the thing on the deck.
But it doesn't feel anything like ordinary motorcycling, like solo motorcycling,
right,
as you three-wheelers call it.
Yeah.
It's a totally different set of skills, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely nothing like anything, not like driving a car, an ATV, a motorcycle, and that's why people have to learn. Once it's simple when you know how, as you have found out.
Yeah, quite difficult when you don't know how. I mean, there's quite a history here, because 1912, Watsonian part of your company were selling sidecars.
That's right.
Your company, Squire, you kind of amalgamated in 1979. Oh,
yeah.
Right, that recent.
Yeah.
Have they really progressed? I mean, is there much difference between a 1912 sidecar and a 2001?
It's still a third wheel on the side of a motorcycle, but the sidecars look different. They have to, for modern bikes, they have to look very swish, very modern, and they have to be able to be driven very, very fast. I mean, people are not just pottering around. Okay, on some of the vintage stuff, yes, it's sort of out on a sunny day, but the serious sidecarist is going to want to go as fast as he possibly can in the right circumstances, and modern sidecars have to be made so that you can chuck them around, you can drift them about the place if you really want to. So yeah, modern bikes need modern sidecars, and they're very quick.
If you look at it one way, there's half the time there's very little justification for motorcycling in this country because it's raining usually and there's too much traffic, but then there are some advantages. You can get through traffic, it can be quicker, you can park. In many ways, a sidecar, you could say it's completely nuts nowadays. It's not even that cheap.
Yep.
I mean, these are dedicated enthusiasts, aren't they?
Yep.
Will it always be here?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we've been making sidecars, as you know, for yonks and yonks and yonks, and we can't see the thing tailing off. The market doesn't really get smaller, it doesn't get bigger, but it's always there. We export all over the world. We know that if motorcycles are going to be there, people are going to want sidecars.
Well, thanks for talking to us about it, and letting us have a go on your sidecar combination as well.
Pleasure.
Modern kit like this is all well and good if you want to travel hundreds of miles, which is exactly what I've just done. But if all you want to do is tool around at the weekends, then you don't necessarily have to head straight for the Fireblade or the R1 shop. You might fancy something a little bit more sedate, nestling in the garage for sunny day use only. So why not consider a trip back in time? Let your socks show over the top of your boots and head back to the 50s for some rock and roll. Well, I've got to get into character, haven't I? What do you want me to do? Dress up like something out of Heartbeat? Only then, why 50s bikes? Because from what I can see, they leak, they don't go very fast, and they don't stop very quickly either, so why bother with them?
Because they have this magic charisma, and all right, they're quirky, and as you say, they have their problems, but they do very much grow on you. And again, for many of our customers, they're reliving their youth. It's amazing, but it is growing, where these things are coming out of sheds and barns and what have you. And one of the biggest attractions is the social aspect. You stop anywhere on one of these old girls, and within seconds there's people wanting to talk to you and reminisce, and it's all part of the charm.
You secretly confided that actually in here a lot of times over a weekend, and I'm sure in barns and places like this all over the country, half of the people that come in are just using it as a museum.
Oh, they are indeed, but again, it's all part of this sort of friendly club sort of atmosphere.
You must have seen some come and go. I mean, are there a few absolutely prized pieces out there, the ones you'd love to get your hands on?
There are a few really attractive bikes. The BSA Gold Star is probably the most famous of all the big singles, and in the same way the Vincent Black Shadow of the V-twins. But the majority of what we sell is what I call bread and butter stuff, the stuff we had in our youth.
And there's
the
also
stuff we couldn't afford
some
in
really
our youth.
utilitarian stuff in here. You were talking earlier on, like the little green Francis
The little Francis Barnett.
That bizarre blue Italian thing.
Oh, the little Aprilia.
Yeah.
Very rare beast.
What a thing.
I mean, things have changed so much. Do you really not like modern bikes at all?
Oh no, I must confess I own a modern bike.
I wasn't going to let you get away with it because if you hadn't said it, you ride a VFR. It's not exactly vintage, is it, really, when you think about it? So clearly there is a place for the modern bike.
Yeah, it's two totally different worlds. You know, I go on the VFR and behave like a geriatric hooligan.
Excellent.
It's a much more laid back, relaxed sort of motorcycling.
Right, you're going to let me have a go on a matchless?
We are indeed. A nice 350 single, nice gentle single. You'll see them where the charm lies in these old beasts.
And if when I'm out there on this thing and somebody overtakes me on a Jap bike, are they going to be sniggering at me as I sit there all bolt upright?
I suspect they will in fact be envying you.
Do I have to smoke a pipe when I ride an old bike?
That would be interesting, yes.
Right, join us after the break because I'm going to have a go then at riding one of these old things. Crikey. Welcome back. I'm about to be introduced to the gentle art of riding a 50s bike. So on here I've got my cruise control, I've got my 6 CD auto changer and my stereo, I've got my adjustable screen to keep the wind off my face, I've got heated grips, heated seats and a reverse gear. Ernie, what have you got on yours?
Well, we've got most of the basic essentials: a throttle, brake, clutch, 2 petrol taps, and something you haven't got on your BMW, a kickstart.
So there's no CD player on here?
No, no need for that.
Or a cruise control?
Or a cruise control.
Okay, a little more basic. Look, you're going to let me have a bash on this, which is great. What have I got to remember that's different from riding an ordinary modern bike?
Just 2 things to remember. Firstly, the gear change is on the right-hand side, not the left.
Right.
And secondly, the gears are 1 up and 3 down, which is totally opposite to what you're used to.
Other than that, the control layout
It's
was basically the
basically
same
the
in
same.
1950, whatever this was.
Was indeed. Clutch
As it
on
is
the
today.
left, front brake on there.
But the other big difference is there's no starter button. Ernie.
I know, but we've got the kickstart.
Right, go on then.
Very-
And there's going to be a rigmarole here, I just know.
No, very easy to do.
Okay.
Shall I start it?
Yeah, go on, give it a go.
So first of all, we turn on the petrol.
Right.
We tickle the carburettor on to flood the carburettor.
Give it a tickle, Ernie.
Yep.
Choke. Stand back.
Easy over compression with a valve lifter.
Right. Right then, well I may as well take a touch of the 90s with me. Don't overdo the period costume thing. Here we go. 1 gear up, throttle. Heartbeat. That is huge fun. It's very different from riding a modern bike, but it is still enormous fun. And if you're looking for something to play around on just on nice weekends, here's further food for thought. For the price of 1 of those, you could have half a dozen of these. That's a collection.
Earlier in the show, we looked at 2 Enfield Bullets, bikes from the 50s still being made today. And this is a derivative of those bikes, based on just one of the Bullets, but turned into this, a gorgeous Café racer. From the clip-on handlebars to the beautiful stainless steel tank and the crouched, hunched-over riding position, it exudes 50s style.
As sports bikes get ever faster, it's got to beg the question eventually, how fast do you actually want to go, and how much of it is anyway about the absolute speed and how much the sensation of speed? So rather than go ultra modern, why not try something a little more old fashioned that might not hit the big speeds, but makes even slower ones feel terrifyingly fast, I suspect.
This really is about the perception of speed. Who cares what it says on the speedo? When you crouch low over that tank, staring ahead of you, you feel like you're going 150 miles an hour, even if you're only going at about 35.
That beat of the engine just takes over everything. Your entire being, bouncing off walls, going quiet and loud when you go between trees, and offending old ladies. Not that we want to do that, that's childish. old years ago weren't quite what they are today. You do need a bit of advance warning. Late braking manoeuvres are not advised on something of this vintage because even at the front, they're not brilliant. They're not bad, but they're not brilliant. And the gear lever, the gearbox is a bit stubborn. Again, a bit of warning required. Of course, best bit of authenticity, no electric starters. So let me remember, I've got the ignition off. We're on the main stand, fold my foot peg away. This is exactly how they used to do it outside the cafes. Decompression thing, 1, 2, a couple of those. A couple of it with the decompression lever, but cool, blimey. Like that, no, like, bear with me. I know what I'm doing, I'm a big tough biker. Now, I'll give it one more of those. That's without ignition on. Now ignition on. Are you ready? Oh! I knew that was going to happen. Obviously. I think that went well. Ah! Damn it! Spray! This isn't just a motorbike that you jump on and ride. It's not a disposable unit. I don't want to get poetic and all, but it's like a living, breathing thing. It is. You kind of tickle it into life. It needs nurturing along. And the reward is just an experience unlike any other. It is hilarious and fantastic.
Sure, anybody on a modern Supersport 600, or even a 400, or even a 250, probably even a 125, will run rings around you on the road and track. But it doesn't matter. They won't look anything like as cool as you do, and I doubt the grin under their crash helmet will be anything like the one on your face.
Oh, you must remember it's when like everybody was really spotty and in a really bad mood all the time.
Yeah, and used to get really embarrassed at school discos.
Yeah. But if you were 16 again, we've got two of the hottest looking machines you could ever wish to spend an afternoon on.
Because whilst they might both only be a little bit diddy in the engine department with just 49cc to play with, when it comes to looks, they are both big hitters.
This cannot be a scooter, surely. But it is, even though it's not a step-through. It looks fantastic. And I want to be 16 with one of these on the drive. Okay, there's not much fun awaiting you in the engine department, but what do you expect from 49cc? Still, the slower you go, the more chance you've got for people to take an admiring look at you.
Well, isn't this Dragstar a strange thing? It took me a while to decide if I liked its looks, and to tell you the truth, I don't think I've made up my mind either way. The large exposed shockers and mainframe made it look like something out of Mad Max. Add this to the cruiser-style riding position and chrome bars and clocks, it seems as though the designers at Italjet weren't sure what they wanted to achieve.
Well, they both look pretty racy, so that's enough messing about on the city streets.
I think we should see how they do on the track.
All of a sudden, when we get out onto the go-kart track, the lack of engine power is no longer important, because whilst the cornering speeds might not be massive, the corners themselves are very tight. And the DNA performs extremely well. The centre of gravity feels quite low for a scooter. There's bags of grip, which could be partly down to the lovely grippy go-kart track surface. Nevertheless, you can hustle the thing along at a quite reasonable pace, thank you. Everything is scaled down. The size of the track, the size of the engine, the size of the bike, and the size of the wheels. Ultimately, the size of the speed too. But the thrills are not. It was enormous fun.
It performed quite well on the track and seemed to cause a stir with the local go-kart fans. I found it really hard to lean the bike into the corners, but the acceleration was sharp and the braking power was incredible considering the size of the front disc.
Neither of these scoots were entirely at their best when asked to perform tricky little manoeuvres, but that said, the DNA did creditably well through the slalom. Sitting low and hunched over the bars means you've got to have your wits about you to respond to the quick steering. When it came to manoeuvring around our tight circle to test the steering lock, again the DNA wasn't exactly the easiest scoot, but it just about made it.
Off the track and out onto the car park told a different story though. The steering lock was awful, and to complete any tight manoeuvres successfully you needed a course in trials riding. Richard didn't believe me though, and he had to prove me wrong, successfully completing 1 full circle in our cone test. Trust him, the cocky git.
Yeah, well, Fran, it takes years of skill and practice and endurance and near perfect balance, and I'd like to thank my man. Ow! Thank you very much. Coming up next week on Two Wheels Extra, we grow an extra wheel for our 3 Wheels special.
Come back, Richard! All is forgiven!